Hello, everybody. So today we are going to go over basically what you need to know in regards to attack reports. So one of the things that comes up from time to time is people don't entirely know what they're doing when they're attacking players. Now, one of the things you're going to notice is that that troop bonus there is 142,000. You might be wondering, how do you get a higher troop count? All right. The first thing you need to understand is when you are attacking players, there are two things that you need to know. The command center is going to dictate your rally capacity and your troop deployment capacity. The key difference in these two is that rally capacity is the amount of troops that you're able to send with a group of people, and then the troop deployment capacity is the amount of troops that you yourself are allowed to send. Now, there are a few things that you need to know in that if you go into the research tab, any of these regimental expansions are increasing your troop deployment capacity. That is how you increase the amount of troops that you send. Okay. Now, you can pop a boost and you can go into the war tab, and there is, believe it or not, a deployment capacity boost that you can pop, and that increases the amount of troops you can send as well. Okay, and they do have two different flavors. They have one that's 10% and one that's 20%. Obviously, the 20% boost, like that, when procced, okay, you'll see that it actually does improve or increase the amount of troops that you can send. So now, now that I have 20%, for example, I can now go and say, if I wanted to go gather our level 8, my capacity is going to go up to 144,000. And you can always tap the arrow up here at the top, and it'll actually tell you what your rally capacity is and your deployment capacity is. And it'll also give you stats on what your troop stats are, as well as what your current stat bonuses are. So, like, for example, let's say if I wanted to know if I'm going to attack this player, for example, and then I wanted to know how much infantry damage and stats and yada, you want to hit that little exclamation point. Okay, and this will accurately tell you how much infantry attack, lethality, and defense, and lancer, and so on, what your stats are in this march, as well as any of the other bonuses that are being applied to it. And the key thing here that is really, really important to know, okay, is that whenever you're looking at your individual heroes, you need to know that there are actual abilities that are assigned to those heroes as well. Okay, so one of the things that you'll notice in the case of like Natalie, for example, is that she has a stun chance of 20%, granting all troops attack, a 20% chance to stun the target for a turn. There are different bonuses. Obviously, like exploration are going to apply mainly to arena, but the expedition stats are going to apply when you're attacking or defending players. Now, the main thing here is that attack up is increasing all troops. Whenever you see something like, for example, I don't know, let me pull like a couple of different ones to show you what I'm talking about here. But like, for example, positional defense is going to apply 25% for all troops when, it's going to increase damage up. There's attack speed up. There's a 150% boost there, 75%. These are all stats that you can kind of get familiar with, I guess. But you look at like the woodpecker ability, and you'll notice that, okay, his nail gun has various different stats that increase there and increases defender troops attack by 12.5%. Like, these are all the little things that you want to pay very close attention to. Obviously, yes, your gear also increases the attack stats as well. And then the troop mastery is your master forging. That's going to, add a certain amount of percent on top of whatever you have as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of stats that go into this because you also have your chief gear as well. Okay, and if you're wondering what your chief gear is currently possessing, in terms of what you're doing there, you can look at the individual items and see what your individual percentage bonuses are. I'm at tier 1 purple epic gear, so that's kind of what my gear looks like at the moment. I do have a set of bonuses, and I'll get another percent once I get this item up to T1. But the main thing here is that whenever you're wanting to look into your stats and such, these are all things that are influenced by that. Okay. Now, one thing that you'll look at here, looking at these reports, all right, is that you'll look at somebody that has like 85,000 troops, for example. Okay. You can see they don't have chief gear. they don't have good heroes, and they're pitiful on the stat side. But if you look at the battle details, you can actually see that they don't even have T10 units, so they get completely obliterated. You can really see very quickly like which units often died, which some cases are worse than others. Let's see if I can find you guys a really large drop of, because there's like a handful of different ones in here. Let me see if I can find one. Well, this one's a fair amount, right? So there's 32,000 losses here. You can kind of see, from the stats side, I was doing 400, they were doing way below that. And if you look at the power details and actually look and see what they lost, you'll see that they lost lots of different troops here, but most of the troops they lost were mostly, tier 6 and tier 7s. There's some tier 4s and tier 2s and T5s in there. Not a whole lot of, flexibility in their infirmaries, just kind of got pitifully dropped. Now you can see that whenever I attacked, what was I losing? Mostly infantry. And this is why a lot of people will tell you you oftentimes want to increase the number of infantry you have in your possession, because infantry and marksmen and lancers, right? Marksmen are going to kill your infantry. Lancers are going to kill your marksmen, and your infantry are going to kill the lancers, And so in some ways, you have to be kind of mindful of, the fact that your infantry line is going to be basically the most important thing that keeps your march alive. One of the things that I can show you here is, and I think oftentimes it's really easy to see this, but like when you hit like bases, for example, bases you're gonna result in losses, but if you like hit tiles and stuff like that, you don't lose anywhere near as much. Like here's 41,000 dropped. And again, it's more or less much of the same thing here. You can see that a lot of his troops are all dead, and there's large amounts of them that, like, you can see they got some kills, but most of the ones that were doing the damage were marksmen, because naturally they're knocking down your infantry line, and that's all they can do. So they're going to do as much damage as they possibly can. And until they really break through your infantry line, you're really not going to lose a whole lot of troops. And again, every time I'm marching, you'll see I send Zinman, Molly, and Talia. That's really not even being done in any way particularly strategic. Because again, you look at what the skill details will tell you, and you'll actually see, like in this case, Molly's Ice Dominion popped 5 times, and his volley ability popped once. So and in different cases, you'll actually get more bonuses than others. Let me see if I can show you an example of one that I hit with Geronimo, because I feel as though that might give you a better idea of what like that looks like. Let me see if I can find one. Sorry for the delay, but I just gotta look for the one where I did. A lot of these hits, I like started out kind of hitting one at a time, but in the early days of it, I was sending, here we go. So like, here's one with Geronimo. Again, much to your dismay, you'll have infantry, range, and lancers every single time. So you always have 3 heroes. Again, you can see my stats are still fairly high, but they're not as high as the other ones. And that's only because of the heroes in choice being used. And you can see here, like I lost, some troops because I threw some T4s in, and that's not intentional. It just kind of happens when you're sending like bulk marches. This guy again just lost quite a substantial amount of tiny troops. There's not like a whole lot lost there, but if you look at the skill detail, you'll notice that Ambusher kicked off, and that did some damage behind the infantry on a marksman because of Jesse's skill. Again, you can always look at like how, like when they're in defense, like here, fluorescence procs quite a bit from Body's ability, which grants all troops a 50% chance of increasing damage dealt. So the main thing I'm trying to get across to you is that like whenever you're going around and attacking players versus defending, you're going to get completely different results dependent really on the skills in use. Like here I've got Natalia's stun ability that procced. Here you can see that it stunned and it did some damage and stuff like that. Again, these are all things that you can learn from your battle reports, and it'll give you a lot of helpful information as far as, whether or not are you doing better in one stat or another. If you're wanting to know, like what is the difference between attack, defense, and lethality? Attack is basically the base stat that is doing damage on that unit. So for example, if you have infantry attack, that's really the damage that you're doing to both the infantry as well as the marksmen and the lancers. It's the base stat that then against their defense is getting negated. So like for example, if I took, say I'm running infantry right now into, say, I don't know, infantry, right? It would be taking 436 minus 207, and the difference is the damage. And so you're having to take that into obviously after all of that's said and done, the lethality portion of that is also the amount of true damage that you're going to do after that has been all considered. So your lethality is going to do DPS just based on the amount of because this is kind of impacting more so the health side of the stat than it is anything else, but it's really kind of more the true damage that you're going to do when you're attacking. Again, the main thing that you should really get out of this, if anything, is that if you're looking at it and are utterly confused as to what the lethality stat is, the health stat, and the attack stat and the defense stat, and you're struggling to understand like what the role is, I really recommend join the Whiteout Survival Discord, and then you want to go into the guide section, because the guide section has lots of helpful guides on everything regarding Whiteout Survival, and you'll find a ton of helpful information there, so I really highly recommend you join it. And again, if you're struggling to figure out where that is, you can actually click on your profile and go to settings, and then from in here you can actually get access to like gift codes and stuff like that. If you've got codes that you find, you can obviously modify things, but one of the things you'll often find, even in like the early days, is you'll actually get mail from them regarding the Discord. But again, it's not hard to find, so if you are struggling, then just, I guess, hit me up in the comment section below. But needless to say, that is pretty much what you need to know as far as the attack breakdown that I can give you. I will say that, compared to like sending rallies and solos and such, you obviously do want to pop attack boosts. If you're like a rally captain, for example, make sure you're popping your troop lethality, troop attack, troop defense, troop health, enemy attack. All these bonuses here are really helpful. If you want to prevent people from actually scouting you, you can just use a counter recon, and the counter recon will prevent them from scouting you. And that's, just little itty bitty stuff that honestly it saves time, and you'll thank me later. Anyway, thank you guys for dropping by. Make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys next time.